What's going on, my roundtable? My name is Excaliber596, and welcome to a new series on my channel that I like to call Just How Strong Is... put name here. This is where I analyze exactly how powerful your favorite video game characters are through power scaling like the big fucking nerd I always am and wish to be. Now before I get started with today's video, I feel like I should quickly explain exactly what power scaling is for those of you who don't quite understand the concept, as it can be pretty complicated when listening to someone who discusses it. Power scaling is the act of analyzing a character to measure exactly how powerful they are through things like calculations, feats, statements, and comparisons to the other characters in their franchise. You know, nerd stuff. This usually applies to three different categories: attack potency, durability, and combat speed. Durability is the amount of punishment someone can take before getting their ass beat. Pretty self-explanatory. Combat speed is how fast someone is able to react and respond to attacks, which is not to be confused with how fast someone can run, as that would be travel speed. A common and easy way to differentiate the two would be to put Bruce Lee in a fight with Usain Bolt. Although Usain Bolt is the faster person, Bruce Lee is the faster fighter, and thus wins in a fight pretty easily. Finally, there's attack potency, which is a bit more complicated, so I'll explain this with a quick scenario. Imagine if me, with all my physical power and weapons commonly at my disposal, produced enough force to knock down an entire building on top of myself, and I survived. 'Cause I totally could. That would make me building level in both attack potency and durability, respectively. Now, imagine that someone came by and with all their strength and weaponry matched me in a fight, even though they've never brought down a building or survived one crashing on them. That would make them building level by comparison, as they have survived building level attacks and were able to damage someone with building level durability. This would also be considered true if he had made a statement that he could match me, and the story being told suggested that he was not exaggerating. So now that I took you guys to school and bored your brains out for about 2 minutes, let's get right into the fun stuff, shall we? Today we'll be analyzing the power of the legendary Hero of Hyrule and better Legolas himself, Link. Now, analyzing Link's powers and feats are a little bit more complicated than most, as he's not a singular character like Mario or Kirby, but is actually multiple reincarnations and descendants of a single hero. Every Link is his own person and has his own distinct abilities and feats to go off of. Thus, this video is going to be split into 2 parts. Part 1 will analyze 3 different Links, the weakest, the most well-known, and the strongest, and Part 2 will discuss the idea of a Link with the powers of all Links combined. Now, scaling Link as his own character, as I said, may be a little difficult because there are so many versions of himself throughout the series. However, scaling the Links to each other is actually a much more accomplishable feat, as there is one single consistent thing in the series that almost each and every Link can scale to, and that would be our own friendly neighborhood piggy in the brick house, Ganondorf. You see, unlike Link and Zelda, who are reincarnated every generation from the spirit of the hero and the blood of the goddess, Ganondorf remains the same person throughout just about the entire series and is a baseline for how to scale every Link from, even when looking at separate timelines. And Ganondorf is honestly pretty crazy, and I'll get into why in a sec, but it's because of exactly how crazy Ganondorf is that I'm gonna start scaling the weakest Link. Puns. It's exactly because of how monstrous Ganondorf can be that I have to scale the weakest Link to be one of the few that has never actually fought him, which leaves us with 4 heroes. There's the goddess's chosen hero from Skyward Sword, the hero of size from the Minish Cap, the hero of 4 from 4 Swords, and finally the one that easily takes the place as the weakest Link, and one you may all know. I'm sorry. I can't say it with a straight face. Okay, I think I can say it now. And the one you may all know. Okay, I'll stop. Just rip it off like a band-aid. Here we go. And one you may all know, the weakest Link, by a large margin, is the hero of trains. Oh, Nintendo, why? So yeah, the hero of trains from Spirit Tracks is the worst Link to date by comparison. Not only has he never fought any incarnation of Ganondorf, but he's also never fought the second biggest baddie in the Zelda universe, Vaati. And we know that Vaati is at the very least scalable to Ganondorf, or perhaps at least one of his right hands, from what happens in 4 Swords Adventures. Ganondorf used Vaati as a distraction while he gathered the power from 7 maidens, the descendants of the original 7 sages, whose power can be scaled to the original Ganondorf from Ocarina due to the fact that they created his seal. We also saw that this Link was able to defeat this Ganon with the 4 Sword, making the 4 Sword relative to the Master Sword in power. The main villain in Spirit Tracks, however, Malladus, was beaten by the Locomo Sword, a sword that, unlike the Master Sword and Four Sword, does not have the power to slay evil, and in lore was only defeated by the Spirits of Good, whoever those are. However, this is not to say that Malladus, and by extension the Hero of Trains, is weak by any means, as Legend of Zelda villains actually get pretty ridiculous. Because even though Malladus is the weakest of the big baddies, by the end of Spirit Tracks, the guy said he was basically gonna blow up the whole fucking planet. So this random Demon King, who couldn't even show up on the Golden Goddess's radar, doesn't have any special sword needed to kill him, and doesn't even have the Triforce of Power, is fucking planetary! Now, this doesn't mean that the Hero of Trains is planetary as well. He's actually a little weaker because he needed Zelda to damage him with the light arrows, but he was still able to deflect his attacks and distract him long enough for Zelda to get a few good shots in, so he's not too far off. I'd say small planetary, perhaps? Now, this coming from the weakest Link sounds like a pretty big outlier, but in reality, this is not the first time that Link has gone up against villains who are confirmed planet busters. Like in Majora's Mask, where Link defeated the mask that was throwing the moon at the planet, which was confirmed to destroy it if you didn't stop it in time. And this was a base for Majora's Mask, another baddie who was also overlooked by the Golden Goddesses, also had no special sword needed to beat him, and also did not possess the Triforce of Power. Now, when you think of Link, there's usually one specific Link that immediately comes to mind, and that's the Hero of Time. I'll mostly be looking at the one that took on Ganon, rather than the one that continued on in Majora's Mask, as he's the one that everyone tends to remember more. Now, Ocarina of Time Link took on Ganondorf, who is an absolute monster. To give you some context here, before even obtaining the Triforce of Power, he tamed the Goma, King Dodongo, and Baronade, and just left them to fuck with the world by killing the Great Deku Tree, one of the wisest beings in Hyrule, leading the most powerful race in Hyrule, the Gorons, to a state of starvation, and almost killing Lord Jabu Jabu, the guardian deity of the Zora. After getting the Triforce of Power, he takes over all of Hyrule, freezes the entire Zoro domain in ice, revives a Goron-eating dragon that is about to commit mass genocide, and drain the entirety of Lake Hylia. Oh, is that not enough for you? Okay, how about the fact that after Ganon was defeated by Link and Link went back to his own time, Ganon broke the seal of the aforementioned Seven Sages and threatened Hyrule to such a degree that the king had to wish for the Triforce to stop him. And you want to know what the Triforce, the legendary artifact of the creators of the Zelda universe, thought was necessary to stop this giant piece of soon-to-be bacon? Flooding the entire kingdom to the point where mountaintops became islands, and pausing time within the Kingdom of Hyrule to stop his army from invading the castle. And guess what? It didn't stop him. He still ended up reaching the surface and causing mass amounts of havoc before even getting his full powers back. In said state, the guy even stopped the rotation of the planet and the moon to create an endless night. This is putting Ganondorf at some dwarf star level shit at full power, man. Just knowing the fact that the Triforce couldn't even stop him should be telling enough. And this is the same guy that the Hero of Time just stabs in the fucking face, putting him at around dwarf star level plus. And this is pretty average for a Link, as Ocarina of Time is Ganondorf's first appearance within the actual timeline, and may actually be one of his weaker to mid states. Now finally we get to the strongest Link throughout the timeline, and this spot, without much question, goes to the Goddess's chosen hero from Skyward Sword. Now, as I stated before, this Link hasn't taken on Ganondorf, but the reason he's the strongest is because he's actually beaten someone stronger than Ganondorf, and that's Demise, who is literally the source of Ganondorf's power, and he's the one who curses the spirit of the hero and the blood of the goddess, with Ganondorf being his own reincarnation. Demise was also stated to be stronger than the goddess Hylia, who is stronger than all of her reincarnations into every form of Zelda, including the one that helped to seal Ganondorf in Ocarina, as well as single-handedly sealing Calamity Ganon in Hyrule Castle for over 100 years in Breath of the Wild. Calamity Ganon being the strongest that Ganon has ever been, as stated by multiple sources. This was also the Demise who was absorbing Zelda's and by extension Hylia's soul, making him even more powerful, able to create his own little pocket dimension for him and Link to have their fight. This is like some large star level feats here, and Link killed him in a completely one-on-one fight, no Zelda involved, making Link at least large star level. Now, you could possibly scale the Hero of Wilds and Calamity Ganon to a similar level, as Calamity Ganon is the form that Ganondorf took after deciding to give up reincarnating and just go ham. Pun. So it can be argued that Ganon is using Demise's power against the Hero of Wilds at this point, meaning that they would both scale to Demise and the Goddess's chosen hero. However, they're not quite as powerful, as Zelda was still able to keep Calamity Ganon contained, even though Demise was stated to be stronger than Hylia. So Skyward Link is still better. So that's about the end of the video, but I'm gonna quickly recap the links that I just mentioned so you get the gist of what I'm saying here. The weakest link is the Hero of Trains. Ha! From Spirit Tracks at around small planetary level. The most popular link is the Hero of Time, who sits at around dwarf star level, along with many other links who share similar feats. And the most powerful links are the Hero of Wilds and the Goddess's chosen hero, who sit at around large star level. Stick around for part 2, where I talk about the idea of a composite link, which is basically all the links smashed potatoed into one. I hope you had a great freaking time. If you liked the video, make sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe, and I will call you guys for the next council. Later.